Let's take a look at what the papers are saying this particular morning. I do want us to start with the People Daily. And invasion of privacy is the top story on this particular newspaper. How digital lenders are spying on you. Now, predatory entities accused of illegally collecting contacts and personal data of borrowers and deploying rogue agents who resort to threatening Kenyans. This is a story on page 6, and of course it has been making headlines for quite some time. This is not the first time that this has come to the fore. Do want to take you through that and just read a little bit of that so that you get to understand what this story actually entails. Now, digital lenders Kuti on Friday last week upheld an award of 900,000 issued by the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner it is the much-awaited Football Kenya Federation county elections are now set to take place tomorrow in various counties following the High Court in Kitui decision to lift the stay orders that had previously halted the exercise. Now, the elections were originally scheduled for November 9th, 2024. Of course, that is what you're waking up to as far as the People Daily is concerned. Let's take a look at what the Nation is saying. And Nation newspaper is a Gulf oil deal ties Kenyans to expensive fuel. Now, pain at the pump. Kenyan's consumers face a month-long extension of the government-backed fuel import plan, with Gulf oil majors denying motorists, households and industrial users relief from falling petroleum prices globally in a new agreement that will help the country to evade paying hefty penalties. A story on page 4. Now, 2013 polls chief Isaac Hassan lands Plum State job. Election losers also among beneficiaries of Ruto positions. A story on page 8 of the People Daily. And on matters courts, widow of former marathon champion among 3 charged with his murder. Another story on page 3. Lecturer strike still on as pay talks flop again. Now, students in public university will go longer without being taught after a meeting convened by the Committee of Education and the National Assembly. To resolve the lecturer strikes ended in a disarray for the second time after the Interpublic Universities Council Consultative Forum failed to table evidence that the government has allocated money to pay the lecturers. Now, the employer had been tasked to provide proof that the government had 4.3 billion to pay the lecturers when it appeared before the MPs last week. Another story making headlines here, of course, it has to do with change contract that will have lapsed this year has been extended indefinitely. I also want us to take a look at what you're waking up to as far as the Standard newspaper is concerned. Now, abducted youth was extorted to secure release. A rather story on page 8 and 9 of the Standard. Another story here is Ruto picks insider for CBK deputy position on the business page. A story on page 20. And on the world page, of course, Arab leaders give peace formula. Story on page 22. On Matter Sports, Arab Spurs need Midas touch. Stories on pages 30 and 31. To the government. Story on page 4. Thousands may miss exams over varsity funding crisis. Now, multiple universities say students have been given an ultimatum to settle outstanding tuition fees before the tests begin in December. There is no government funding until cases heard mid-next month. Nationally, of course, you have Anglican head quits after child abuse saga. Justin Welby resigned as the Archbishop of the Canterbury after facing scrutiny over his failure to report a prolific child abuser. The abuser is said to have targeted more than 130 minors for years. Another report shows women prone to join cults. Now, new research from the National Crime Research Center shows women are the most susceptible group to join religious organizations, and after conversion, they play a pivotal role in influencing their families to join these groups. A story on page 18. And of course, National, also another story that we've been able to look at in the rest of the papers is Isaac Hassan, of course, inches away from plum public position. This is a story on page 8. I want to engage my panel here, and we start, of course, with these appointments with Isaac Hassan, of course, making his way back to the independent policing oversight, that is IPOA, from the IBC after 8 years in the cold. Robert Basil, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Thank you so much for making time this morning.
Welcome.
I start with you. Let me start with you now because I give an opportunity to Marianne and, of course, Honorable Samuel Porigisho for a comment. Mr. Hassan, latest appointment by the head of state. Talk to me about this and what you make of this fact.
I think Isaac, I have no problem with him. When he was IBC, he did a credible job. And you know, now he joined Kenya Kwanza. So he's been rewarded after being in the cold for quite some time. Eh? Okay. So it's very normal. You know, he has bills to pay, you know. And you see, when you stay out in the cold for quite some time, we're talking of 8 years, it's not a small feat.
It's been 8 years that he's been able to write a book.
Yeah. And you see, of course, I think, and these, my friends can agree with me that when he was a commissioner for IBC, as much as in every election we have chaos in Kenya, you know, there are people who say we accept the results, others move to court and all that. I would not say that he left a bad legacy, you know, compared to people like Kivuitu, you know, of course, may the Lord rest his soul in peace. But of course, you can imagine during his time, Kenya plugged into political crisis ever. The 2008, 2007, tribal clashes, which was instigated by the political violence that came as a result of the poor management of IBC processes. But Isaac, during his period, I think he did a commendable job. So I will not have any issue with him. And like any other Kenyan, he deserves to be rewarded. It's very normal when you look at what happens.
I love the way you're choosing this word, rewarded. Selective. Somehow you want to use it.
The reason why I say the word rewarded is because it's not competitive. Competitive is where you invite Kenyans to apply, to express interest. And once you express interest, you are put in a process of selection, which could even include doing some written tests. And then after that, then you go for oral interviews, you know, eventually you get your way to parliament for vetting process. But you see, in this case, it's more of, I know you, you'll be loyal to me, then I pick or I give out your name for consideration.
Should the process of selecting...
But now the other challenge we have...
Should it be competitive, though?
It's supposed to be competitive. And you see now we have another crisis. Remember, we don't have IBC commissioners. And IBC, they are supposed to give some clearance, you know, particularly in line with Article Chapter 6 of the Constitution, on matters to do with integrity. That has to be cleared. You know, IBC have to, you know, say that this person, when you look at, you know, the past history, we clear him. And then once you are cleared, then you are subjected to vetting through Parliament. The responsible committee, of course, to go through the norm of vetting, and on the floor of the House, we make our own comments based on your credibility and based on your candidature for the position you are being rewarded for. So that is why I use the word rewarding, because the process being used is more of nomination as opposed to competitive process. Yeah.
Okay, I'll come to you. Let me start this. Samuel, what do you make of this? You were there during, you know, you understand his tenure at the IBC. Right now, we are seeing him come back to IPOA. And what would just be some of the expectations we expect from him as far as leading this particular organization is concerned?
Well, thank you. I want to say from the onset that Isaac has a proven record of performing in management and leading organizations. If you read this book that he wrote, you see the struggles he went through, and yet he came out as strong at the end of the day. I don't agree with the language used that he was in the cold for 8 years. That is not possible. Because once you've been a commissioner, a chairman of a commission in this country, you cannot be in the cold. Actually, you can survive the rest of your life because of what you've earned. And when you go, they give a very hefty retirement. So basically, he's not in the cold. It's just that I believe that because of his proven performance, and that President William Ruto is looking for people to help him in running some of these organizations. And you know, the president has complained that he's not getting enough support from his workers, from his cabinet, from his team, including members of parliament. So it's complained a lot. It says the other day that I want the internet, I want people to support me, put these things out, tell the story. Okay. And it's not being done enough. So he would like to see success in some of these organizations. And so the idea that Isaac is coming back is to try and see if what some of these commissions can run. By the way,
Honorable Pugisho, the idea of not seeing success, and the people that have been entrusted with helping him, you know, put this message out there, the people that I believe he trusted from the onset.
Well, you know, when you first come to, you know, after elections, you know, the people who are thrust on you as because of the political party agreements and so on. It's trust, but eventually you realize that the people who are your comrades and friends are not necessarily the best people to put in positions, because they have this whole thing that they think they're entitled. So entitlement, and when they get to the offices, they do not share the same vision that the president has. And I think what the president has to do now is to make sure his vision is understood properly, clearly, by the people he gives these responsibilities, so that when they share the same burden, they can help him. But unfortunately, when he appointed the first cabinet, he appointed them because some of them had agreements written, some of them were thrust by the regions where they come from, and so on. And so they found out that first cabinet was not effective. Okay,
so the lessons to learn from there.
So he has actually, now the new cabinet is going to perform differently, because they have no entitlement. You know, a few of them still do, but those who are coming in who are not part of the original ones, they have no entitlement. They're working, trying to work their tails off, but as you can see, they're still learning the ropes, trying to understand where the direction is. Okay. Kenya should be guided by the Vision 2030. It should not be a problem, understanding that. So Isaac is come back. We think he still has that that capacity he had. You never know. 8 years could have worn down the guy. We don't know. Let's see if it's going to be the same again.
All right. Hold on, Marian, your comment on this.
Thank you. Isaac Hassan, he was the first commissioner, chair of the commission of IEBC with the new constitutional dispensation. Remember, we are coming into a new constitutional dispensation, which required even the elections to be held in a different way. And I think he did a commendable job. He has tried to apply to be a High Court judge at some point, meaning that he's still interested in public service. So coming in to be the chair of IPOA, IPOA is an independent body. And if you realize, the police and the public have always been complaining about the functions of IPOA and whether IPOA is really doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Especially where the public feel that the police are over exercising their mandate, but at the same time the police feel that IPOA are also gagging them in terms of delivering on their mandate and their functions. So I think the fresh blood from Isaac Hassan, having shown his prowess and his experience in the 2012 elections and steering the commission through the reforms to the where we are today, because he is actually the father of the new reforms at IEBC, because he is the one who started the IEBC under the 2010 constitution. I think that fresh blood, that experience, and being an advocate of the High Court of Kenya is going to give the necessary experience and necessary new look at IPOA for both the public and the police, because those two, both of them require to work in some form of cohesion.
Okay.
I want the policeman in my constituency, for example, to be able to serve me with dignity, but at the same time be able to give me the peace, the security that I require. And at the same time, that same policeman requires to do his work without feeling like there is somebody behind him who is going to gag him from what he's going to do. So I feel that coming in as chair of IPOA, he will actually...
What will be the balance there in terms of, serving the public and also getting to serve the police officers, because they do not just work for the public, they also work for the police officers. In terms
they work for both. Yeah. And that is the reason why you need someone who can balance both and at the same time understand the law. And I think having steered us as a country through an election in a new constitutional dispensation, he is capable enough to be able to balance the two, because you must balance those two.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually like the way the judiciary put this weighing scale. It's that kind of scale that you need to balance.
All right.
Yes.
I want us to shift our conversation a little bit before I take a break and focus on some breaking news that happened last night, and that was with the acting Social Health Authority CEO Elijah Wachira having been sent on a 90-day compulsory leave. This is 42 days since we started SHA shift, and I saw in the National Assembly yesterday there was a little bit of drama. Somebody saying SHA shift shoe, and the leader of majority coming out and saying why are you not understanding this? Of course, and yes, it has been a debate. Yes. It has been a debate in the country for ever since it started, and we've started seeing suspension on issues to do with some gross violations and misconduct and all that, with one that has to involve 1.6 billion Kenya shillings. That is not little money. To some extent, it legitimizes the concerns that Kenyans were having from the onset, because now we are running away from NHIF because of issues to do with how it was being conducted, determining corruption and all that. And now we are 42 days into SHIF and SHA, and we still are experiencing this. What does this speak to us as a people, and just the process itself? Let me start with you, Robert.
Is it SHA shift or is it Shisha?
No.
The Nairobi,
Someone says it's Shisha.
Are calling it Shisha. The question I ask myself, what triggered or what meant the government to introduce the Shisha system you know, the shisha, etc.
Mm.
When in reality,
Shashif.
we had a working NHIF. Remember, NHIF was very well working. Actually, we had very
Well, that will be
isolated.
debatable depending on who you are. Some people
No,
will
I'm
say,
talking of, we had very isolated cases
Okay.
where NHIF could be refused by hospitals. I'm talking as people's representative. You go, you get all these complaints because we are representing people. So before the introduction of these shisha, etc., there were very limited complaints, particularly on NHIF. Because NHIF, you are contributing so little, but it was well respected in most of the hospitals, including the what you'll define as the best hospitals. We're talking about Nairobi Hospital, like Akan and others, where patients would walk in. The first thing they ask, do you have an NHIF card? You say yes. So already NHIF would cater for some of the expenses,
Okay.
you know, medical expenses. Here you go with this card, the Shisha. You go there, the doctor asks you, what card do you have? You produce that Shisha. They tell you, we are sorry, sir,
We
we
are not
only
accepting.
accept cash.
yeah.
And it is the reality on ground. This is not political.
Yeah.
You know, people are trying to politicize health, and health is very critical. You know, it's not about trying to defend or to say the government is doing the right thing, but talking what is wrong and what is right.
Yeah.
These Shisha things are not working at all. And if I was to sit with the head of state, I'll tell him, please revert back to the NHI. What he should have done, you don't reinvent the wheel, but you check on what is already working. You try to look at the flaws in the system, and then you strengthen that.
Okay.
So it should have meant we should have selected a team, particularly medical practitioners and all users of the service,
All right.
the NHIF service.
Okay.
Then have a proper review, scrutiny of the NHIF, the way it's been applied, and then identify the loose nuts, you know, what is not working with NHIF. And that is what the government ought to have done to rectify the problem with NHIF. But now, introducing a new system, and this new system totally fails, and you know, majority of the people are depending on these NHIF, Shisha. They are the people who are at the bottom level of the economic kanda or economic ladder. Because majority of the rich, we have a separate insurance program. If you talk of state officers, starting from the end of state downwards, we have separate insurance providers. And these are insurance services which are well respected across. By majority of the people we represent, we are talking of 70% of Kenyans, they rely on that NHIF. So if you bring that Shisha, you are actually denying these people access to health services. And myself as people's representative have no apology to me. I'm telling the president, this thing is not working.
Okay.
Revert to the old system. Otherwise, we are going to put our poor people to unnecessary suffering when trying to access health.
Okay.
That is a reality.
All right,
And this is not a matter to do with the politics, because I'm meeting patients, I'm meeting my constituents every single day, coming to our offices, telling us every day we are told by the chiefs and the village managers to dial a certain number so that we can transit from NHIF to the Shia product. Then in the actual sense, once we do that, this thing is not respected by any medical facility.
All right. I do want to take a break. I'll be coming back and get your feedback on this. I'm due for a break here. We want to take a break on this particular show, and of course, continue engaging us on our socials at K24 TV. The hashtag is New Dawn. We'll be back in a few as we continue the conversation, and also later on just take a look at the political scene, how it is looking like at the moment, right?